All right, so we have come to the topic of children, which
Dun dun dun.
which over the last 14 years has been, I think, without question, the number one question that people have asked via email or phone call or whatever else, and for good reason. How do you do church, especially if you're coming from a traditional church mindset? How do you do church with a bunch of children with you? And I can say whatever we're going to say here has come from experience. When we began our simple churches, we had a couple of children that were all kind of 2 years old and under. So a couple that are all kind of, we didn't have many children that were under 2 years. So
But we ourselves had a toddler, new to our family, and a newborn baby.
That's right.
That was fun.
Yeah. But we had a lot of...
It was fun,
We had a
actually.
lot of growing convictions, didn't we? Or ideas in our minds.
Mm-hmm.
We didn't know whether or not any of the ideas were going to work out.
That we wanted to try.
Exactly.
And I was thinking, this is like probably, out of maybe all your videos, well, maybe not. This is like a big, maybe philosophical shift.
Yeah.
In our own minds and hearts, because it's like we think one thing and now we're going to practice it.
Yeah.
And that this is the most where I really felt the rub as a leader and as a mom.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's something for sure that we evolved with as we've gone along this journey.
Yeah.
We have gone the stages from toddler and children and babies through to preteens, and now we have many teenagers that are in our midst as well. And I think we can also say, though, kind of with smiles on our faces, that a lot of those early dreams that we had and those early convictions that we had have they proved to be true? Yes, in some way, I guess. Is that too strong? It almost seems arrogant to say it, which isn't at all the intention. But we're just thankful that it seems like through this experience, we have children that are with us. They love our churches.
But our measurement, I think our measurement has changed.
Mm-hmm.
So the measurement of us raising a successful Christian child is changed in our mind, and I don't think we're thinking that's the goal anymore. I mean, the goal is to follow. You want your kids to follow Jesus.
Yes.
But it's the process. It's that quote about the journey is what matters.
Yeah. So
we can't sit here and say, well, we have a bunch of 30-year-olds who are all the successful looking adult disciple. We can't say that.
No.
We don't know what that means.
Right.
So, but we do have teenagers and
who are with us.
Who are with us still, and we still have little babies in some of our churches too.
Right.
So we're doing it, and maybe in 5 years we'll do an update.
Right. Yes. So a little vulnerability, a little humility, and all of that, I think. And we're learning this as we go along, I guess, is what we're trying to say as we begin this. But it's been good, and we are very thankful. I think maybe it's one of the things that we are perhaps most thankful or most just joyful about as this stage that we are in with our children. And I believe that so many of our simple church family parents would have a similar take on that. Okay, so that long intro out of the way. What are some of our convictions? Well, we've actually brought our notes because we want to make sure that we touch the bases that need to be touched. Okay. Mm-hmm. First thing we want to address is an idea that has been common throughout our own upbringing when it comes to church, and that is this kind of underlying view that children can end up being a bit of a distraction, especially when it comes to the worship gathering. When adults are worshiping and when we're gathering, what can we do with them so they don't distract us from the real work of being together in worship? And that's actually something that many people, that's actually probably the starting place that people have come to me with their questions, saying, well, we're meeting together in our home, but our children are really a distraction from us, and we're trying to have this, hour-long Bible study, and they're getting in the way of of that. Now, they would never say it quite like that, but you get the idea, and maybe you have a similar thought, and that's why you're watching this
I might
video
feel that way.
right now.
Yeah.
You feel
Oh,
that way. Yeah, and I totally understand it. We talked earlier on in one of the early story videos. There's culture shifts that are happening here in your own heart and in your own mind when you are moving into a house church model. This is one of the major culture shifts that's happening with you, is how do you view and understand the presence of children in your midst. I guess when I started to think about that for myself, I just started to wonder, like, could Jesus have ever thought of children as a distraction? And I looked at it. No, of course not. He never thought of the vulnerable, the outsiders, which children are, as distractions. Just the opposite. He welcomed them in. They were his beloved. And then I also began to think about, well, what happened in those first early few hundred years of the church when they were just meeting in the homes? Like, did they just send the kids outside so that they could get on to the business of church? Or I began to imagine that no, it was probably like this very rough and ready, messy, busy life together as they gathered together to worship. So I started to envision this sense of this picture of early church. Now, we want to say that doesn't mean, right, that, and we'll talk about this later on, that there can't be times where adults get together to be adults and to talk about weighty and meaty matters. There can be and there should be. We'll talk about that for sure. But just to start that first little ideological idea off, the children are not a distraction, and we need to allow the Lord, by His Holy Spirit, to address that and begin to shift that mentality in our mind.
I think it's children are not a distraction. They're people to be discipled.
Right. Which is the next point. You want to lead into that one?
So we're talking about parents being the primary disciplers of children. So they're first students of you.
Right.
So being a disciple is one who follows, right? And never is it more evident when you have little people or medium-sized people following you around and watching you. And so raising kids to be disciples is not the job of another person.
That's right.
It's not the job of a professional clergyman.
Or a youth pastor or a Sunday school teacher. First and foremost, the responsibility of raising our children in the Jesus way is us.
Yeah. So if you are new to the faith, though, if you're new to the faith, there's a place for you to bring in other people, to find even professionals, but to find the people around you who are following Jesus, other adults, and say, how do I do this? How do I teach my kid about Jesus? But you can pull up the Sunday school chair with your children and learn together how to follow Jesus. You don't have to send them away.
Yeah.
You can be with them. When I was in college, we were talking about in our college and seminary days, I took a full credit course, and it was called Family-Based Youth Ministry. And at the time, I was a product of a traditional, quite a big church actually. And I remember even then thinking, what a strange class to take. This is not setting me up to be be a leader of a church group. This is saying to me, find the adults, find the parents, and disciple them, and encourage them to find their children and seek their children out for spiritual conversation, to show their children how to worship and pray. And as a young person, then I was like, this is strange, but I brought that into internship, and I brought those thoughts with me into our life, because I love that idea about you're discipling your kids whether you're doing it intentionally or not.
Yeah.
They're picking up all the messages. So what a wonderful thing for them to be beside you on the couch, learning how to pray, or watching you learn how to pray, or beside you on the couch taking their first communion, or seeing their brother take communion and wonder how that works, or watching an elderly person in your church and seeing the elderly person pray every Sunday. This is real discipleship.
But having said all that, in my notes here, and this is an important caveat to what we just said, because that's our heart belief. But at the same time, we also recognize it takes a village, right, to raise a child. So is there a place still for Sunday school teachers, or for people to teach other parents, other adults to teach our children? Is there a place for youth pastors and youth groups and all those? Yes, and yes, right, absolutely, and all of those things can be incorporated. I think we're just saying that our conviction has grown that that the primary responsibility rests with us as the parents to raise up and to disciple our children in the Jesus way.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Okay, so the next thing that we want to talk about, though, another conviction, is that children need to participate then in the full life of the church with adults, with other believers.
And sorry, I know you're going to say this right now, that
Yeah.
those memories will carry them through to adulthood. And that goes back to the village thing.
Yeah.
I just wanted to make that bridge, because that's what I was thinking, was like, I have been so thankful that there's been intimate friendships with other adults for our children. And that has been amazing. So that idea about families discipling families, but a small church like a house church becomes a family. So these people become the other disciplers, but as a friend, as somebody that they've seen every week,
Yeah.
pray and serve them croissants, you know?
Yeah. And like, what's happened as we've grown along is that we have created this really, or God has created this really wonderful village where our children are with adults, and the adults know them. Like, I'm thinking of Megan, I think of Neto and Jess, go down the list, Jonathan, like, just on and on it goes, Candace and John. I mean, I'm going to get in trouble if people start listing the names, right?
Well, somebody just came by this morning
Sure.
to give something to one of our kids.
Yeah, who's in his early
discipling
60s, right?
Yeah.
And is part of our church family. But you have this where our kids are, yes, they are growing up with us as primary disciples, but they're looking around going, I see her worshiping, I see him worshiping, I see him living this out. And they are connected together. Now, as we worship together in this way, one of the things that I think, one of the convictions we began to bring into our ministry. So I was a young adults pastor for 7 years, and began to observe some things that I was growing in a level of discomfort with. And that was the segregation that has been happening amongst the generations within our churches. This is actually, in church history, quite a recent phenomenon, beginning with the movement into Sunday school, and then from there into youth ministries, and then from there into young adult ministries. What I observed began to happen is that we started to tailor and curate all of these church experiences for these various ages, and they were never living then within. They were never worshiping. They were never seeing the rhythm of the church with the adults. And they had these things that were just meeting their every little consuming need, if you will, right? So we went from Sunday school, and then we went to youth group, and it was just them. And oftentimes, many churches, the kids are never involved in the services, or if they are, maybe for a few minutes of it and then sent away. And then we come into young adults, where I was, and we had created this amazing thing just for young adults. And I'm not disparaging that. There's a tension here, because those things were also really wonderful. But when they were existing entirely apart from a real integration into the life of the church, what we began to see happen was that as they came to those natural transition point where they were moving out of and phasing out of these youth ministries and young adults ministries, and then we were saying, hey, come join into our church, it wasn't happening. And it wasn't happening, and it isn't happening because those people, those kids, now young adults, they don't know anybody. They might know them by name, but they don't know them as a family and a church family. And the culture, they've never had really a strong experience or integration with. Everything is foreign. And so I don't know people. I don't like this. I'm not familiar with this. It's
not comfortable.
There's no comfort. There's no integration. And our belief is that one of the most important things we can do from the very early age is to bring all the generations together, to worship together, to learn together, to know each other, and to do this throughout the course of our lives.
And that's actually one of the most unique things about church, is it's not a club where everybody has their own places to go.
Yeah.
The church is a very strange identity, where you are mixing up the ages, with everybody's mixing up together, and you see value in that difference. It's not a club for best friends,
Yeah.
It's for everybody. So you see a value in how the 70-year-old appreciates worship and what they've learned about it, you know? And then the messiness of the 10-year-old who's bouncing off the walls. All of these people are on the road to following Jesus, and you put them together and it's not smooth,
Yeah.
but it's different than anything else you're ever going to find.
Now, you say, well, what about youth groups? Well, hey, our kids go to youth groups around the North Shore, and they participate in with those youth groups. So there is still a place for those things, and it's really valuable. It's part of that bigger village, right? But it's saying, is this the meat and potatoes of our experience of our life together? The answer to that is no. We think that we are to be all together in this worshiping together. And I want to just add this caveat too, because I realize that this of all the videos is maybe the one where it might be the most poking a bit of a finger at the dominant church experience. Our intention is not to say anything about that. We're just simply saying, sharing the convictions that we now have come into, and we think these convictions have some merit and have some value. So let's finish then with just a couple of these
So if
practical
you
things.
have kids in your gathering, start tailoring your meetings towards them.
Yeah.
Make an object lesson. Include them in the first 15 minutes or 5 minutes, even if that's all, if that's all the window you've got. Before school age, those guys are pretty bouncy. They need to feel things, touch things, draw things. There might be somebody in your midst, and it could be a parent or not, who's really just great at bringing the extra coloring sheets, bringing a popsicle stick thing. We've done so many things. Bring a bunch of rocks for an object lesson, build an altar, washing feet, Play-Doh games. Really, just go for it. And strangely, the adults are going to learn too.
Yeah.
You're going to learn in all of that because you're boiling it down to some really simple things, and it's going to touch your heart too. There's going to be movement there for you.
That's exactly, it's so true, and I jump in on that. That has been definitely one of our experiences, because there's this. I can even hear the objection already. But what about me? What about me getting fed? And we'll talk about being fed in another video. But
that's a big thing, isn't it?
The Lord is gonna take care of you. But in this season of time, and I think I said this in another video, we need to remember that part of our responsibility now is to stoop down, is to take the way of Christ, to serve these little ones that are in our gathering, and to say, I'm going to set aside my own needs, or seeing them facilitated in this gathering. I'm going to find other ways to fill in those needs and to feed myself, because right now, the best thing that I can do is to give myself up to the raising of these ones that are with us, right?
Yeah, to teach them, to be together with them. And also, if they're very little, like sometimes they're very little and there's no way they want to sit there and do Play-Doh with you, and that's okay too. So also just let them play. Have a bin of special toys that are maybe just for church in a different room. All of this is also to say it's okay for parents to also say to kids, could you be quiet for 5 minutes? Guys, we just need to be quiet. We're going to have some prayer time now. If you require that for longer than whatever your threshold is, 10 minutes, 8 minutes, 20 minutes, nah, that's not fair to the kid or to you. It's okay to send them to a different room. You can have Bible videos if you want, or you can just have a bin full of trucks. And that's going to be okay. We've had seasons where you can also hire a babysitter. Maybe there's a preteen or a teenager in another church or in your church that you want to say, hey, we're going to give you $5 or $10. Can you take the kids outside for a walk in the backyard, do a little nature hunt? Boy, we've had churches we have gone through the time of tiring when you have a whole bunch of kids under the age of 5. That's very tiring.
And it's crazy and chaotic, and
they'll mature though. They will mature, they will grow. They hear your songs at night. They hear you praying at dinner time. They're going to get it. So you don't have to have anything too formal, and that's okay that they go off and play. Well, you get to just rest and drink your coffee and stare off into space, honestly.
Yep. And you may look at this and go, oh gosh, you know what, we're failing them. We're failing church. We're not doing this or whatever. Let me just give you this.
Parents.
It's okay.
Yeah.
It's going to be a short window of time. And pretty soon those kids are going to move into a phase where
they can sit and join you.
Yeah, and they're going to be there with their coloring sheets or whatever else, but their ears are going to be looking. And when you look down, what you're going to see them is they're going to be drawing what it is that you all are talking about.
Yeah.
They're in there. They're getting it. Trust us on that one. Just trust us if you're in that place.
Yeah.
Finally, one last thing. Don't be afraid. If you all just need to be together as adults every once in a while, once a month, whatever it is, to just say we need some adult time. We need to come together to church, to pray together, to just have an adult conversation when our kids are young. Don't sweat it. It's okay. Put the video on in the other room. Let the kids go in there, and you all can have an adult time just for you. It's totally fine. You're going to flex. You're going to roll with what you need to do to make it through this season, to raise up your kids, to disciple your kids.
Yeah.
And you're going to find as you journey through this, a beautiful thing begins to emerge as you raise your kids together in the way of Jesus. And that's not to say, like we began, that it's not going to be filled with problems. We could go into it. We've had a lot of problems. We've had our own challenges raising our children. We're not painting this picture like they were always following Jesus. We are very much like every other parent out there in that way. We're just saying this is how we have experienced our life together in simple churches with our children, and it's been fruitful and it's been rich.
Now, when the children do come in, when they get to be more school age kids, we haven't talked about that as much.
Right.
When they become more school aged, like ours are right now, it's what you're doing with them is you're doing the same thing that you're probably doing around your dinner table, or whenever you're trying to talk with them. It's like you're like wrangling cats.
Yeah.
These are humans, and they've got opinions, so
they're immature.
Yeah, and they want to play, and they still want to rub you the wrong way, even when you're at church with apparently your friends, and everything should be cool. So there's still disagreements on our way to house church. You know how you have fights before church? Those things still happen. That mood still comes with you. Your kids will still roll their eyes at you in front of everyone else when you're eating your meal. So those are kind of, it's just the way that it is. So you're sitting down together, your school-age kids are there, you're still engaging them. The person who's facilitating is like, what do you think? What do you think? What do you think? We ask some questions. We get them involved. But beware that there is a tolerance level, even in a school setting for a kid. There's a tolerance. So you can go, I don't know what that will be. You need to measure it.
You'll see it in the room.
You'll see it in the room. So at 30 minutes, if you've lost them, don't be sad. Don't keep beating that dead horse. If you've lost them at 30 minutes, it's okay for them just to lay back and watch and not be engaged anymore. So give them jobs. If you've got some kids who can do the reading, let them do the reading. Somebody can light the candle. Give them jobs to do. All of this. Parents are
include them.
Yeah, you'll know how that goes. Just include them for the little bit, and if they're just sitting the whole time and don't say a word, they're still learning.
Yeah,
you'll love it. Yeah. So,
I think
is that a lot for children?
We may have to go on and do a second video in all of this.
Kids are a lot. Kids are a lot.
I think it's a good start, and you can throw up questions in the comment section below, and if we see some things that we haven't addressed, then we'll come back and maybe do another video. But we've given you a lot of food for thought. I guess we just want to say you can do it. And it's going to be good, and it's going to be wonderful, and it's going to be challenging, and all of those things together. But the Lord's going to be with you.
Kids are church too.
Yep, kids are church too. That's one of our other hashtags.
Yeah.
Okay, let's leave it at that.
Yep.